This camera's too high.
This is what I feel like. Hello?
Alright, that's a lot better. Whew, y'all, so I've had some time to calm down. I'm ready to talk a little bit more about this Lion King land. Just the thing I've been wanting to happen for the last, 30 years is finally happening. So we didn't really get any new announcements since D23, but they did have, this whole model that was presented at D23 that we haven't talked about at all. And I just really wanted to take some time to talk about the things that I personally am really looking forward to with the Lion King land, or things that I hope are there, or maybe some things that give me concerns, but the things that I hope are going to happen with this land, with this ride. First of all, I already mentioned this in the other video, but I want to mention it here. I do have some concerns with what Lion King we're going to be basing this entire land around. The wording at D23's announcement sounded like they were basing it off the animated movie, but then all the concept art we got looked very much towards the 2019 remake. My guess is maybe they were trying to go more towards the 2019 remake version until they maybe sat down and said, you know what? Even though it did technically make more money, it sold less tickets as a whole than the original one did. The original one is what people are nostalgic for, not this one, so maybe we changed that, but they made that decision so close to D23 they didn't have time to make new concept art, so they just said, let's show what we have, but then mention it's gonna be the animated one. That's my thought, that's what I hope happened. If this does end up being based around the 2019 Lion King, I won't be upset. I'll be mildly disappointed, but we still have a Lion King land. I will be excited. But I really hope that they stick with the animated version. Secondly, let's talk more about the actual ride itself. We did get some details about the ride. The ride itself is going to be based around a log flume. It's going to function, I guess, very similarly to like a Splash Mountain, as the fact you have a dark ride section up front, and then it will end with a big splash. I do have some minor concerns with this. First of all, this is not my favorite type of ride. I don't usually like the rides that get me wet, and that's a little disheartening when I hear that my favorite franchise of all time is getting one of these, and it's our first ride ever. Kind of bums me out, but at the same time, I do know I adore Jurassic Park also, so I ride it for the IP, and I still have a great time doing it, so I'm sure I'm going to do the same thing with the Lion King. So, a minor nitpick, I can get over it. Secondly, the wording from Josh D'Amaro said the dark ride element is going to be following the story of the Lion King to make it feel like you just stepped into the movie, following Simba's journey from cub to king, which that's a great premise, and that's kind of what I was hoping to get at all with the Lion King, was like a dark ride of the story. I don't care if it's just doing the exact same bit as the story, I just wanted to feel like I was in the world of it, and it sounds like we're gonna get that, but I am a little cautious with this, because we recently got a retheme on a similar ride with Tiana's Bayou Adventure with Splash Mountain. Now, I have not ridden this ride yet. I'm speaking as somebody who has not ridden it yet, but I have watched the video of the ride. My biggest critique with the whole thing is that there is no drama. There is no elements of danger. There is no stakes whatsoever. I mean, the story basically goes, Tiana and Louis want to find a band for the restaurant, and they find a band. Then they go to the restaurant. The end. Whereas that's not necessarily a bad ride in and of itself, but when you're basing it on an IP like The Lion King, which is known for having some of the highest stakes in any Disney movie ever, and is one of the most emotional stories that Disney has ever put out, my fear is we're gonna go through the journey with Simba, but take out every element of danger, oh, he's a cub, circle of life, oh, he's still a cub, just can't wait to be king. Let's fast forward to Hakuna Matata, and then just fast forward him on Pride Rock. Cool, we did it! I want stakes in this. Now, I also get the juxtaposition. You're on a vacation. You don't necessarily want to sit there and look at a dead Mufasa as you're going on your family vacation. I get that side too, but I think there's a great way we can meet in the middle. We don't necessarily have to show the stampede, but we can at least show, Scar scheming. We can have a whole, set piece design of be prepared, the scene where Simba is struggling internally with what's going on as he looks up into the sky and the clouds, and that at least gives some emotional turmoil of Simba, and then that can lead into Mufasa up in the sky. It's just, there is so much with the Lion King story-wise that I really want to make sure that the ride captures. It's such a big and epic and show-stopping movie that I want the ride to emulate that emotion you get from it. And I hope that they use primarily animatronics, but I also realize some screen elements might be needed also. I'm really hoping that they do this ride justice, and I think that they probably will. Now, let's look at the model of the entire land. On a first glance, I'm a little concerned about the fact it looks kind of open and barren, which you could argue that's just the Pride Lands in general, just African, like, savannas in general. I mean, they're grasslands. They're designed to be just, like, mainly grass with a few trees spotted here and there, so you could argue that they don't have a lot to work with, but I'd argue that there are some great natural beauties on the savannah that aren't necessarily just grass and some shrubs and some rocks. Although the rock work that I see does look really cool. At first glance, I do think Pride Rock looks a little small, but it's also part of the ride, number one, and also number two, I think they're going to use a lot of forced perspective so that whenever you are walking around, that's going to look a lot bigger. So I get that argument, but I still think there are some things you can do to dress up the land to make it feel not barren, and I think one of the big things that they need to do is add animatronic animals. Now, obviously, we're not going to have animals walking around where people can touch them and do all that. I'm not saying that level of animatronics. Good golly molly, no. I mean, like, Jungle Cruise, and the fact there's, like, all these bushes and stuff, and you have, like, an elephant head poking out. And it's going to be far enough away that people can't interact with it, like they can't run up and touch it, but it's close enough that they can see it, and it's immersive, and it gets you into that world of the Pride Lands, because that's one of the great things about the Pride Lands is its vast array of biodiversity with its wildlife. They already hinted this with the model, like they have giraffes up here in the back, zebras seem a little bit closer, we've got some lions up here, we've got some crocodiles down here, but it's like, if they only do one or two of these, I think it's going to feel too sparse. You definitely want to add more, I don't know if they're going to be animatronics or just statues or even just like, I don't know, a painting or something. I don't know how they're going to do it. Rhinos, hippos. There are so many other animals that you could be getting into these, into the Pride Lands here. There's cheetahs and ostriches. If they could really flesh out this world and make it alive and exciting, then I think they have one of the coolest lands ever. But I also realize that that's going to be a lot of animatronics, and that's even animatronics that aren't going in the ride, which I'm sure are going to have even more animatronics. So that might be wishful thinking on my end, but I really think it's going to help, like, flesh out the world even more. They also mentioned some dining and meeting characters and shopping. I don't know what kind of dining they're hoping to do, especially with Disneyland Paris and the main Disneyland park. They already have a Hakuna Matata restaurant. So they're going to have 2 Lion King restaurants. Can we get one over in America, please? Since Hakuna Matata is kind of a quick service, it would be really cool if this restaurant was a little more of a deluxe dining option that was a little more sit down, and maybe since it's all based around the Lion King, we can have more of a, I don't know, maybe base it around carnivores and predators, make it like a steakhouse. And I think that would be a really interesting option, so you could feel like you're dining with the king and the royalty, which are all carnivores, while you have your steak. And I think that'd be a really cool idea, but I also realize that some of the animal rights activist groups might be a little mad at that, and I don't know if Disney wants to tick them off. But, you know, you're basing a land around lions. You can kind of get away with some stuff, I think. For shopping, I'm not really too big on it. What makes me more excited about this is just the fact we're going to have a continual line of, like, Lion King merchandise, which I'm assuming that Disney's not only going to sell here, but also like shopdisney.com and just the Disney stores outside of the other theme parks. There's almost never enough Lion King stuff. Like right now, we've got a huge influx because of 30th anniversary. So yeah, this just gets me excited for even more Lion King merch, hopefully coming more often. The other thing that gets my attention is whenever they say meeting some of your favorite Lion King characters. Now, traditionally, there's only been 2 main characters you can meet from the Lion King at the Disney parks, and that's Timon and Rafiki. It makes sense because they're the only 2 bipedal characters, and so it's easier to bring them to the parks as opposed to all of our four-legged friends. But I think with something more permanent like this, I would really hope that we can bring more characters to a meet and greet. Could you not have a meet and greet animatronic, much like Universal has with Donkey, Disney could have with Pumbaa? And Pumbaa would be like, you know, you could see his head poking up and you could hang out with him. Now, granted, I know there's some issues with this. Like, one of the reasons the Donkey one works is because you can find actors, quite a few of them, who can sound like Eddie Murphy. I don't know how many voice actors try to sound like Ernie Sabella's Pumbaa. And let me tell you from experience, just learning the impression, doing the voice of Pumbaa is really difficult, and it takes a lot of energy. So I don't know how many actors we could find that could do that. So that might be a little tougher than I initially thought, but I still want it. Obviously, I'd love to be able to do a meet and greet with like Simba or Scar or any of the lion characters. That would also prove some difficulties, but I feel like if you have a land dedicated to this, you can find some creative way to bring more characters. I have a feeling though they're probably just gonna put in Timon and Rafiki and call it a day, but I really think that there's something there. I really think that they could do something special with the meet and greets there, even if it's something like Turtle Talk with Crush-esque, to where everybody's animated, but there's like somebody back there making it unique for each encounter. I mean, maybe they could make a show like that. Because believe it or not, Turtle Talk with Crush is not the only show that Disney has that works like that. They actually have one at Disneyland Paris, mind you, that's based around Stitch. So that might be overkill putting two of the same show in there, but it's completely different characters. I think it could totally work. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I really need to start putting money aside so that when this land does open in Disneyland Paris, I will hop on that plane and be right there. So I'll see you guys later. Bye! And big thank you to all of my Patreons. Without you, this channel wouldn't be what it is today. Thank you so much.